In testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. It is 10:36 a.m. Central Time on the 30th of August, 2019. It is Friday. I got my cats out, so you might hear some meowing and running around. I'm not doing a full update yet, but I am just checking in to make sure we sound okay. So, yes, do we sound okay? Chipmunk, sometimes Lurch, other times normal. Depends on what mood the New World Order's in. The what? Never mind. Sounds good? Okay, hey, let's just quickly turn on a display capture. I'm just going to show you what's happened. This, again, is not going to turn into a full update, I promise. But just, if you're not aware, a day ago, yesterday, we had our 6.3 to 6.4 earthquake off the west coast of the United States, off Oregon. Since then, let's get that out of there. And this is everything pretty much since then. So what's happened? Down here in Southern California, we have a new 3 right on the outskirts of LA. That's right over next to Glen Haven, of all places. Then a little outbreak going on up to the north. I'm going to go ahead and turn back on the last 24 hours worth of earthquakes really quick. 0.0 and greater. So this will show us all the small earthquakes and the felt events. And all this is going to do is show us just that there's stacks of earthquakes now developing. And the stacks we call swarms. So what you'll see here is a diagonal line of earthquakes that comes out of Montana and goes down and dead ends into Lake Yellowstone, going back up to 3.0, 2.7, several small earthquakes. I mean, you see it. It's a stepping stone path of small earthquakes. And that is on the northwest edge of the North American craton. So you see Montana, and it goes down into Wyoming on the craton diagram. All right. So we talked about looking for this, and now it's starting to swarm. Now, it hasn't gone back up to 4.0 yet, but we're expecting that. We're expecting new 4s to go across the plate, and a new 6, or somewhere very close to a 6, popping off down in Southern California from LA to Ridgecrest. But I've warned everybody from San Francisco all the way down to San Diego. I try to get it within 200 miles of the center of the area that I'm warning. Over here in the Midwest, also a line of earthquakes going right across central Oklahoma. And at the center of Oklahoma, right next to Oklahoma City at the drill points, we have a new swarm outbreak. Or not a swarm yet. It's a cluster. It's developing into a swarm. Once we get over about 10 different events at a single spot, I mean, you could add these all together across all of Oklahoma and say Oklahoma itself is swarming. But inside of Oklahoma, we have a cluster inside of the swarm, if you will. Then, over here on the west coast, pretty obvious, stack of earthquakes back up here at Clear Lake. That's normal. We see that on a daily basis. This goes up and down. When this goes up off the screen, that's a lot of energy coming in. And when this goes down to next to nothing, there's usually something building off the coast. And we just saw the 6.4 yesterday, so this thing's starting to climb back up in the number of earthquakes. We call that the frequency. Same with over to the east, the frequency of the earthquakes is now starting to re-increase, going from up here next to Lake Tahoe. That's at Reno and Steamboat Springs Volcano. Then going down here, you'll see there's hardly any. Just 1, 2, 3, 4 in Long Valley Caldera. Then a couple new earthquakes just south of the caldera. This goes down into Big Pine Volcanic Field. Then we get back down here, and Ridgecrest is swarming out again. And a line of earthquakes now progressing out beyond the lava mountains. And this goes out in the North Mojave Desert. So it's spreading, guys. It is. I mean, look. It's coming down beyond the Garlock and now going down to the south. Lava mountains are pretty much right here. So now we're progressing down south. Now the depth on this, 7 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 8, 11, 7. So these are all fairly shallow compared to the other ones that were 20, 30, and 40 kilometers deep. So now we're all pretty shallow. We're up near the surface, and it's spreading to the southeast. Well, we have a diagonal line of earthquakes here, going from geysers to the east-southeast across the Bay Area, and dead-ending down here south next to Parkfield. We also have a diagonal line of earthquakes going from Steamboat Springs down past to Long Valley Caldera into Big Pine Volcanic Field. We also have a diagonal line of earthquakes going from Cozo Volcanic Field, here where the cluster is, down past Volcano Peak, down past the lava mountains, going out into the Mojave now. So that's 1, 2, 3 sets of diagonal lines going northwest to southeast. Then, up here in Montana, make that number 4, 4 sets of earthquakes going northwest to southeast. Now let's go down to Southern California, and well, lo and behold, a line of earthquakes going northwest to southeast, where a cluster, a swarm, has broken out over next to East LA. This would be the only one I want to go look up. That's the reason I was even getting on here to begin with. See how it says Mira Loma? Mira Loma. Well, that's different. It doesn't say Glen Avon, does it? Gee. It's almost like they're triangulating coordinates from a slightly different location to give us a different name, so people won't start to associate the two together. You know why I would bring the two up? Mira Loma and Glen Avon? Because this is the previous earthquake swarm location for Glen Avon. Here is the new earthquake swarm location for Mira Loma. Well, gee, aren't they right? Here's the acid pit gold mine. J.R. Kosanke with his drilling below here, finding the gold instead of oil and gas. The company's dumping 35 million gallons of acid down into the drill points to break apart the areas down into the crust to get the gold, most likely, and then putting a quarry here as a front or a cover to dig it out. That's just my estimation. I can't prove that. It's just something I think. I mean, come on. Why would they dump 35 million gallons of acid down into the drill points here in the 1950s, early 50s, and late 50s, when in 1937 and 1940, J.R. Kosanke is drilling here for oil and gas and finds a bunch of gold instead of oil and gas. Reports it to the officials, caps off the well, moves away. Within 10 years, the biggest companies are out here dumping acid in the ground. And then they put a quarry here? Come on. Use your brains, people. So anyway, we had our big outbreak that happened here about 2 months ago. You guys remember this. Huge outbreak of earthquakes. All the professionals came out from Caltech and the USGS and Dr. Lucy Jones on TV, and they were all saying, oh, Glen Avon, no big deal. It happens all the time. Big swarms happen in California all the time. Nothing to pay attention to. Then, within just a short period of time, now remember, this is where our place mark is. I'm going to search something. Within a few days of the swarm breaking out and the professionals denying that it meant anything, La Brea tar pits. There we go. La Brea. Well, we've all heard of them. You guys have seen them in the movies. The tar pits. So while Glen Avon was swarming over here, acid pits gold mine, we go parallel over here, and this surged up under the streets and started to come up across the streets. Underneath. This started to surge. Well, no one, except for me and maybe a few people on YouTube, even talked about it. The mainstream media buried the story, and the professionals said it meant nothing, and then it happens all the time. It doesn't happen all the time, by the way. It does not happen all the time, especially surging that far up underneath the street. So then, within 2 to 3 days of the professionals denying that the La Brea tar pits meant anything as they were surging, 5 miles east, let's measure. 5 miles east, somewhere right around in here, the sewer system exploded. Now this is downtown LA. Sewer system exploded from natural gas buildup down in the sewers, sent the manhole covers flying sky high. After the La Brea tar pit surged. After Glen Avon swarmed. That all happened. The professionals were in denial mode. I was making videos on it, telling you guys it meant something. Then, within maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks tops, boom, 7.0 earthquake right here, and that 6.5 and the fracture and all that good stuff. Good stuff is a sarcastic term. You know what I mean if you're from the States. If you're, you know what? People who are outside of the United States won't even understand that. Good stuff would mean sarcasm. All that. Whatever you want to call it. Anyway, we have a line of earthquakes coming out of East LA right next to Glen Avon. That's where this whole mess started. That's where we're back now. They have it triangulated from Mira Loma, even though it's within a half mile of the Glen Avon swarm that happened previously. Now, going from that swarm spot, where that's the most number of earthquakes, obviously, is stacked on top of each other, then spreading out, actually larger earthquakes, twos, going out to the east, down the San Andreas, and then breaking off and going down this way, down to Southern California, down into Mexico. Now, down here in North Mexico, we've got Cerro Prieto volcano right there in the geothermal pumping operations. We get to here, and we're right at Westmoreland, California, with its geothermal pumping operations tied to Salton Sea volcano. Down here at the border, El Centro, another geothermal pumping operation. I don't know which magma chamber that one is associated with. It's either between Salton Sea and Cerro Prieto, or Salton Sea and Cerro Prieto are connected somewhere down below. Anyway, they have a geothermal pumping operation right there at the border. Then, going to the west of Salton Sea, you see this line of earthquakes that meets back up. Oh, a new one just struck up here at Miraloma. A new line of earthquakes going to the northwest-southeast again, but it's all the same size. 0.7, 0.7, 0.8, 0.7, 0.7, 0.5, 0.7, 0.8. Then the 2's up to the north, and 2's down to the south, like bookends. So think of this like 2's, like bookends. Took 2 here, and then a bunch of smaller in between. And we have a push coming in from the northwest. Well, that's pretty obvious. So we have a giant open area here where the energy apparently is jumping across the valley from Parkfield over to Ridgecrest. Same time it's jumping from Parkfield over to Ridgecrest, energy is also coming down through eastern California, and this diagonal line of earthquakes signifies that, hitting at the volcanoes. So it's combining both down in Southern California, and that's why I'm looking for somewhere in the 6.0 range to come in. Don't fault me if it comes in just a little under or a little over, if it's 6.2 or 6.3 or 5.9. But I'm looking for something fairly large to come in here and, again, down into Southern California. You're going to jump from 0s, 1s, and a 2 up to 5, upper 5, 6. That's about 1,000-fold increase in power from where we are right now. Why? We trace it back up to here where the plate shifted. Shifting still, so it's not that it just shifted. It's shifting. The Juan de Fuca fracture zone shifting. We just had a 6.4 earthquake out here yesterday, right off the coast of Oregon. Okay. Now, no earthquakes reported across Oregon. Right at the border. Stopping at the border again. Let's go check this one out, see what it is. What's the deal with the 0.7? 27 kilometers deep. Well, we know that's not an explosion, right? But nothing. I mean, do you think Mother Nature stops at the borders? Do you? I'm here to tell you. Mother Nature does not stop at borders. She can't realize where the borders are. It's not an intelligence like that. So, if earthquakes are stopping at the border of an area, whether it's a country or a state, that to me would mean something else. Occam's razor. Either Mother Nature knows where the borders are, and she's stopping earthquakes to protect the state, or someone's up to something, and I'm going to have to lean towards someone's up to something because I would hate to think that Mother Earth has some kind of strange intelligence to determine border regions. All right. Well, no earthquakes. So what about the tremors? Let's go take a look. Tremor map. Tremor map. Well, here's yesterday's tremors. Can we see today? No, not yet. So the tremors are these little red dots. They actually have magnitudes assigned to them, but they really are vibrations in the plate. What you're going to see is a cluster at Eugene, a cluster next to Medford, reaching up to the northwest, or, again, a diagonal line going northwest to southeast. And you could also say these are also in a diagonal line going northwest to southeast. Now, coming in here, this is not a diagonal line going northwest to southeast. It's a cluster across the Mendocino National Forest. But there's something else here. Reading? Do you see this? I'm going to turn on the USGS plate boundary map, but to do that, we have to go open a USGS earthquake. And tectonic plates, US faults. There we are. So what I want to draw your attention to is down here. So going back to the tremor map, this is where the tremors are. Here's Eureka. Here's the bulge in the edge of the plate going out into the ocean. And here's the valley. Here's Chico, California, for instance, and also Paradise, California is right in here. So right there. Now, let's go back over to the USGS plate boundary map. Well, here's Chico. Here's the plate boundary map, and the tremors are right here. Okay, well, you see what's right next to this. This is the plate boundary. Goes back up into here, to the Juan de Fuca. So, what about the other tremors? We got a tremor here, set of tremors here, set of tremors here, both kind of pointing in this direction. Out to here. Well, what just happened out here? Let's show you. Out here is where the 6.4 just happened yesterday. Right here. So now we have lines of tremors going down towards here. So getting back to the earthquakes, we don't have any earthquakes reported at all, while we do have tremors and shifting happening right in here in southwest Oregon. Well, this line carries on right down to the southern point where the tremors are happening. Then, this line, the Gorda Ridge-Gorda Escarpment, comes into the San Andreas Fault, and here, on the North San Andreas, we're also shifting. Up in the north tip of the valley, up here, right here, south of this triangular bend. Now, this triangular bend points right out to the Gorda Ridge in Mendocino. So, going up to the north, that's the Juan de Fuca. It's been charged. Energy has been released. We have a new push coming into California now. We have diagonal lines of earthquakes both pointing back up to it and going all the way over to Yellowstone. So really, the whole edge of the North American craton from, let's say, Oklahoma or even southern Missouri all the way over to the West Coast has been hit in the past day. This is just 24 hours worth of earthquakes. Now let's go back and turn back on our 7 days worth of earthquakes. By the way, the New Madrid seismic zone got hit. So, I mean, we've talked about this, the edge of the craton being filled in. Now, even the untrained eye should be able to see it over the past several days. Got 6s out off the West Coast. Then we only have 3s and 2s going across the plate so far. Now, but those 3s and 2s are from the previous activity over the past several days, leading up to the 6. So we can really get those out of there. Here's really what struck since. So we have a new swarm breaking out up at Yellowstone, new little cluster or swarm developing in Oklahoma, and the leftovers are making their way over to the New Madrid seismic zone on the edge of the craton. Now, I think this is going to take a full step and a half, almost 2 steps up, so it should go up into the 4 range. And that's a 100-fold increase in power to go from 2s up to 4s. So we're going in a big increase across the plate, and then Southern California, like I said, Ridgecrest to LA, but I've warned everybody pretty much from San Francisco down to San Diego, with the center point being right here is the spot that I'm watching. But I watch in 200 miles to the north, 200 miles to the south, putting that center point as the point that we warned. Okay, so yeah, I said it wasn't going to be a full update. That's just the update for the United States. If you want to go over and watch my video on YouTube, you probably should, because yesterday when this 6.4 hit, I mean, a lot of people don't know. New people are coming in constantly. My subscribership is just going through the roof as new people are finding out about earthquake forecasting. So, do you have a plan? 6 was just deposited on your doorstep. Look, if somebody's walking up your doorstep, are you going to be shocked when somebody knocks on your door? This is kind of the analogy we would have to use at this point. It's right there on your doorstep. So it's going to be coming down into California. It already is coming down into California. I just showed you the diagonal lines of earthquakes that lead back to it. Okay? Have a plan. Be prepared. In the West Pacific, we have 4s spreading out across the plate. So 4, 4, 4 across the plate, equidistantly spaced. All the same size. Going over to Europe now, let's just quickly touch on Europe. Same sized earthquake that struck here has struck down here. 4.3 and 4.3 on equal sides of the plate boundary. Going over to the west, though, look what happened here. Multiple new earthquakes struck. This 4.5 just happened in the Aegean Sea in the past 30 minutes. 1538. Yeah, 20 minutes ago, a new 4.5 struck right over here next to the Isle of Lesbos. But up to the west-northwest, new 4.7, 4.8 came in over here next to Bosnia. Is this Croatia or Bosnia? It's Bosnia. So Bosnia has been hit by a new near 5, or an upper 4. Over to the east in Romania, we have a mid-range 4 and a mid-range 4, exact same size, 4.5, just struck down here to the south. Now look at the equal distant spacing on these 4s. What does this mean? It means in the last day, there's been an equal distribution here. Let's go back 48 hours. In the last 48 hours, from Poland down to Turkey, has displaced on a 4.0 or greater basis, with the greatest concentration at the center west over in Bosnia. So in other words, we get a 4.1, a 4.0, and a 4.5, and another 4.5, and in the middle of it all, we get our 5 basically, or 4.8 and 4.7. So central point, coming under pressure, all sides moving around at equal distantly spaced. Now, it's not going to stop here. The energy is going to carry on up across Europe and go out to the north mid-Atlantic ridge, from Iceland to Jan Mayen Island right here, that little tiny speck of an island, and then going up here to Svalbard in the North Pole, we should see this light up to the North Pole from Iceland to Svalbard at least in the next few days with about the same size that's coming out of South Europe. And if you add this all together, it equals about a 5. So we have a 5.0's worth of energy. Here's another way to look at it. A 5.0 worth of power was deposited on the whole southeastern edge of the European plate, going up to the Craton edges, going from the Aegean to Bosnia, and from the Aegean all the way up to Romania, and then going all the way up to Poland. So, really? Eastern Southern Europe has just been displaced on a massive basis. How much energy do you think it would take to displace all of Eastern Europe, all the mountain ranges, all the plate, on a 4.0 basis in 2 days' time, 48 hours? Take a giant amount of energy coming in from somewhere. Where would it be coming from? Let's trace it back. Trace it back over to Europe, or out of Europe over to Asia. Then you're going to see a giant open area where there's no earthquakes reported in 6 days' time. USGS has no earthquakes reported in 6 days' time across China and across Russia.
Hello, this is Special Agent Dutchsinse reporting for duty.
I'm here to tell everyone that is so obvious that even the untrained eye would be able to see this and think that there's something wrong with the reporting of the earthquakes. Now, I want you to also think about what it would mean for the statistics, for anybody who does studies using the USGS, IRIS, or EMSC as their data source. Hell, you could combine all three of them. Combine IRIS, USGS, EMSC, doesn't matter. Why? Because they're omitting the earthquakes out of whole regions of the planet while simultaneously proclaiming X number of earthquakes happen per year. And then they make further determinations. Oh, well, X number of earthquakes are happening this year, therefore we're not increasing. Or, therefore we are increasing. You couldn't make a determination either way if you're using them as the source. Why? Because if they're leaving out hundreds, or if not thousands, of 4s, 5s, God knows how many 6s, but if they're leaving that out, when you search next, let's say you're a research student, you're in some university, you're getting your doctorate in something, and you get tasked by your professor to pull the frequency of earthquakes, the number of earthquakes that happen around the Pacific plate and planet, and to determine whether or not there's an increase or decrease or patterns or anything of the sort. Is we're not, again, they don't believe in any kind of forecasting, so let's just say you get tasked with finding out how many happened. Well, you're going to go to the USGS, you're going to go to IRIS, you're going to go maybe to the European Agency, you're going to pull a list for a certain time period, you're going to type in those dates, right? You're going to type in such year to such year, such month to such month, and hit search. And then you're going to determine, you're going to look at that final number, and you're going to say, this number of earthquakes happened this year. Well, those numbers are false, completely. You can't rely on them. If you're basing your studies on them, you're incorrect, and I can debunk you immediately. And you don't want a YouTube person, a person online debunking you, trust me. But there's whole studies based upon it, guys. And now, what does it mean? It would mean, let's say, several hundred 4s and several dozen 5s, or more like several thousand 4s and several hundred 5s strike in the course of a year across China and Russia. Don't you think that would throw the global count off? Don't you think any studies based upon the frequencies of earthquakes would be completely invalidated when you find out that they're deliberately omitting earthquakes from these countries? And you have to complain to get them to report? I've had it so where we don't have earthquakes for weeks here. I get on and rant, call them out, tell my viewers to contact them. The next day, an earthquake appears on the feed right in the middle of where I was complaining about no earthquakes being reported. And people try to tell me that's a coincidence. So here's another case where Mother Nature's stopping at the borders of areas, right here at the border of Afghanistan, going into Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, and we get over here right to the edge of Russia, and we have earthquakes reported at Romania and Poland. Pretty interesting. Hey, we do have earthquakes reported down here out of Iran. But not out of China, Russia, India, or Brazil. I wonder what China, Russia, India, and Brazil all have in common. Let's see. Oh, wait. You mean they formed some kind of financial compact against us called BRICS? That's where they've said in open statements that they want to run what's called the New World Order? Here, China said this. China, New World Order leader. Should be top news. Yeah. The Guardian, Barron's, CNBC. And this isn't my take on it. China said they want to lead. They want to be the leader of the quote-unquote New World Order. Since we're no longer the leader, since Trump took over and he's a nationalist and doesn't believe in a world without borders. So they want to lead it now. That's their words. They said it. The Chinese news agency, the official state news agency, said, we're going to lead the New World Order. So, BRICS. Is your house made of bricks? Do you have an earthquake plan? You know what? You probably should have an earthquake plan if your house is made of brick. Have an earthquake plan if your house is made of brick. Make sure you have an evacuation plan to get outside. Now, speaking of evacuation plans, let's just go down one final little rabbit hole here. Let's go over and take a look at the weather. This is going to be for all of my viewers down in Florida. Of course, you're aware of what's going on, so I guess you don't need me to tell you. But I'm going to show you just the tracks, what's projected for Dorian, which way it's supposed to go. So here we are. We're looking at the projected tracks going out till 72 hours. So 3 days. We have a 3-day track here. We are currently right here, going from this peachish color into yellow, currently at a Category 2. It's set to go into warm waters, Category 3, by the time it's north of all the Cuba. It's far away from land down to the south, but you see which way it's going. It's going to come right across the Bahamas and go right into Florida. And they have it projected as a Category 4 when making landfall. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys have seen the Weather Channel, and they got these goofballs out there, the reporters staging fake scenes where it looks worse. They're, walking down in little flooded culverts to make it look like there's deeper water than there is, putting up police signs saying, do not enter, when it's just their tape that's behind them, that kind of stuff. Or where the Weather Channel guy's out there acting like he's blowing around in the wind. He's like standing there, brushing against the wind. Then 3 shirtless guys in bathing suits run behind him and start dancing and doing the Fortnite dance. So, we've seen that before in other hurricanes that they said was going to be severe. In this case, I'm going to have to say, we can go take a look at the tight bands of the storm. We don't have to take the Weather Channel's word for it. We can go look at the storm and see how big it is. And even if it dies down to a Category 2, we're still looking at 100-mile-an-hour winds sustained for several hours. So even if it goes down, right now it's at 2, set to go to 3 and 4. Even if it comes in less than expected, we're still looking at pretty hefty damage. Pretty hefty winds for a long period of time, and it's a huge storm. So to see the storm, let's go over and look at College of DuPage. Wonderful College of DuPage coming in handy many times. My goodness, this is one of the best sources I think that we could use online. And here is the hurricane. I'm going to turn on let's turn on a true color view first. And of course, this looks really small. I'm going to zoom in on the area. There it is. This is Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and edge of Cuba. So right there is the storm. Let's animate up the last 200 images or so. Oh, wait, that's going to probably give us nighttime view. Hold on, let's see. I don't want to waste your time looking at darkness. Okay, let's turn on shortwave. Infrared. There we are. And same thing, we got our 200 images up. So we'll bring it back to last night. There it is. You see, it's fairly strong, but it doesn't have a visible eye in it yesterday when it was still forming into a Category 1. And long about last night, you'll see it right about there. Right there. Now, I don't know if you'll see that on the screen, but you start to see a really big definitive eye begin to form at the center. And by the time it gets to this morning, Here we are at about this morning, and boom, it becomes open and visible right at the center, organized tight eye. Well, the tight eye indicates strong wind bands around the center. If it had a wider center, it would be, of course, a wider wind band, and wider means, of course, not as much power behind it, unless it's just an ultra-massive, mega super hurricane. We're not looking at that yet. But we are currently looking at Category 1 going to Category 2 with an eye forming at the center, definitive, and it's heading to the west-northwest. Again, I'm just telling you something you should already know if you're paying attention. Now, we're going to go look at our continental sectors. We're going to look at the east by southeast. And again, now you're going to get a greater view of the United States. Let's see if we can get a better view of this. Let's go. You know what? Maybe a natural color fire view, even, believe it or not, might even give us a good view on this. So it's just going to highlight the storms. Yeah, starting about this morning, you see it right there. And man, it's set to come this way. Now, we've seen it many, many times in the past where the storm projected track takes it somewhere. And then by the time it gets to land, it's slightly shifting. You can also watch for radar and other weird anomalies to show up here across the East Coast. And watch for the storm to go towards those when they happen. As a matter of fact, watch for the storm to make landfall. I'll call it already. Wherever it makes landfall, it will make landfall extremely very close or go directly over. The eye will go directly over one of the radar stations. I don't know. I've seen it happen so many times. I could be wrong. But the eye will go directly over it as the radar station is rotating. I don't know. Could be a coincidence. Could be. Now, one other thing. Let's go over to my local weather. Now, this is just going to show us a local radar. But I'm going to open up the map because it actually gives us a great tropical track, believe it or not. So, here we go. Here's the whole United States. The storm is not yet visible on radar, by the way. Radar only has a range of several hundred miles. And this is, somewhere right out here beyond where our radars are picking it up. So we only have satellite view and infrared view. Okay, now we're going to turn on our active tropical and active models. So the models, the track is the projected track from the officials, and that's marked with the dots here. So where it says 3, and then it goes to 4, and then it goes to 1. Okay, that's the official track, the tropical track. But the model track, that's these different colored lines here. Different agencies from around the world will plot the projected trajectory of the storm. And you'll see they all have it coming in the same direction. So all the models agree currently that it's going to be heading this way. This goes right over the Bahamas, and it comes in right at Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie, north of Fort Lauderdale, then makes a hard north, goes up along the coast, and they have it going right up south of Jacksonville at a Category 1. So it's going to come in and lose a lot of steam, supposedly, when it hits land. One track has it going over to the west. Or actually two. Two tracks have it going all the way across Florida, the yellow and the white. Now, I don't know who's doing these tracks. Is that going to give us the info on this? Hold on. Yeah, okay, it does. So we have the EGRI track, or I'm sorry, projected storm outlook on there. And then we go to the GFS model, the ECMWF. I don't know what these acronyms stand for. I probably could look it up. TVCN and HWRF. So a predominance of the tracks go into Florida and then go up and make a bend to the north. One of them has it going over into the Gulf. And if it goes over into the Gulf, we've seen this happen before, believe it or not. We've seen tropical storms and hurricanes, a few, I don't remember their names, but going back many years, goes across Florida and re-intensifies, and then goes up and hits into the Gulf. We've seen that happen before. One of the models shows that as a possibility. But the others, again, if you're going to go with just odds or chance, the other models are more agreeing that it's going to be pulling up to the north. Currently at Category 2, going into Category 3 by tomorrow, and then by Category 4 by September 2nd. So by September 2nd, should be making landfall. Okay, making landfall by September 2nd. That's their projected path for that. We'll have to keep watch on it. I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to this intensity and whether it goes up or down. And going up or down is going to really determine whether or not you're going to get major damage or not. So if that intensity goes up to Category 5, you're looking at a major, major problem. Category 4 is a major, major problem. So is Category 3 and Category 2. Category 1, look, it depends on how long the Category 1s go on, but it's not set to come in like that. It's going to come in strong. And unless something changes between now and 3 days from now, you're going to need to have an evacuation plan for the coasts of southern Florida. And that means getting out of Florida, pretty much. I mean, if you go to the north and you get up here to Jacksonville and North Florida and Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, you should be, way out of the way by the time you get to North Florida. Because by the time it gets up here to the North Florida, it'll be more like a tropical storm with just strong winds, 50, 60 mile an hour gusts and strong cells with heavy rain. But anywhere across southern Florida, I will raise this possibility too. We've seen this before where the tracks are all wrong. Every one of them. It's based upon data that's coming in that's changing at a moment's notice, or maybe incorrect data that can come in sometimes too. Could go to the south, could get to here, and something could happen, and it could go down to the south towards Key West. You remember Key West got hit 2 years ago. Could also shift to the north and just bypass Florida entirely. But all the model tracks show it going into Florida, so I'm not going to disagree with those. I'll just tell you, we've seen it shift before. Now, evacuation-wise, like I said, pretty much everybody from Miami all the way up to Orlando, pretty much from there to there, it's going to get creamed. From Miami to Orlando, and right in the center, Palm Beach. Now, there's millions of people that live down here. That would require you guys to have a multi-day evacuation plan that's far away from where you live. It's not like you can just go pitch a tent and go camping in the middle of a tropical storm even after the hurricane dies down. And all the hotels will be full. So I made a post over on Twitter telling everybody who lives down here, look, hey man, you got highways. It's going to take a little while to drive it, but once you get up to here, guys, you should be clear, assuming the hurricane doesn't go across and come up over into the Gulf. I'm telling everybody, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Kentucky, North Mississippi, North Alabama. We got a bunch of great state parks up here. It's just a highway drive away, maybe 6 to 8, maybe 10-hour drive at the most. Open, clean, cheap. It's nice and warm this time of year, and the most you might have to deal with is a little bit of rain. So, the difference is huge. The time to leave would be now, if you're going to evacuate. If you're going to evacuate, the time to leave would be now. You would have to go. It's going to take you 2 to 3 days to get everything sorted and get up and get out. It usually takes 10 hours at least to drive across Florida and go all the way up into the Midwest, or at least into the southern states. Like if you live down in southern Florida, you know how long it takes to drive that. Normally, just with regular traffic. So you can imagine with millions of people on the road that it's going to probably take a little bit longer, maybe a day longer than you would normally expect. So if it takes a full day just to drive out of Florida, and then it takes another several hours to get somewhere, you're starting to get within the time 3 days of when the hurricane's going to be arriving. And you want to be situated and set up somewhere else so that you can monitor what's happening to your house and to your community from a further distance away. I'm just giving you some ideas. There's going to be a lot of people who decide that they want to stay, right? Or they don't have a place to go. They don't have a car. They don't have a way to go. But again, when you're confronted with a Category 4 storm, and whether or not you want to leave or not, you're holding on to your possessions over your life. I don't know I wouldn't know what to do either. If I couldn't go somewhere, if I didn't have any money or any car, I don't know what I would do if you live down there, you make those appropriate plans ahead of time. Okay, I'm not trying to be too severe and too serious, but guys, I've got so many viewers that live down here, and a lot are self-sufficient and might think that they could probably ride out a Category 4 storm. I don't know, that's borderline. If I lived there, I would be like, looks like I'm going camping up in Missouri. I'm going to be hitchhiking. Hey, can I jump on the back of your 18-wheeler here and just hold on like a trash man on the back of his truck? And that's fine. I need to only go a few hundred miles in Florida. It's going to be nice and warm. I probably would do that. I'd jump on the back of a train like a hobo with my back. Like, go ahead and try and stop me. What are you going to do? Put me in jail? They're going to evacuate the jail and put me someplace safer. All right, guys. You're awesome. Much love. Much love. And I'll be back if anything else goes down. By the way, the hot sauce sold out again. It sold out as quick as I put it up, sold out again, then got attacked 4 times. People attacking the hot sauce post. I'm like, what? There's only 50 bottles. Oh, man. Yeah, real upsetting for people. God, Dutchsinse has hot sauce. Did you hear? Did you hear the scandal? Dutchsinse has a viewer who has a hot sauce company who put some stickers on some hot sauce bottles. And Dutchsinse's name is on a hot sauce bottle. We need to stop it. Need to stop it now. I'm like, wait, like, it's just my name on a bottle, guys, and it's only 50 bottles. Like, that's a little overkill, don't you think? They all disappeared. I'm like, yeah, they thought, I guess, thousands of bottles or something. Maybe they thought I was selling tens of thousands of hot sauce bottles. I don't get anything for it, guys. It just gets my name out there. I told them to keep any profit they make. I mean, they're charging $6 for it. So, I mean, it's like, I don't want to cut into that. They offered, to compensate me financially. I just said, keep it, man. You guys are putting my name out there. It gets my name out there on a cool product, and you guys get to make money on it. Fine with me. I don't care. That's awesome. So, but I can imagine the control room of Troll Farm hired by the USGS or Department of Interior went ballistic. They're probably like, what? He's selling hot sauce. Oh my God, he's gonna make a fortune. And I'm like, oh God. Come in this morning. It's like end timers, people posting stuff about GMOs and roaches and chili peppers. Every bad thing that you could possibly do to try and stop my post from getting read by people were doing this morning to try and stop the red hot sauce post. And I said, this is a little obvious. It's got like 50 thumbs up immediately with the "this is too obvious" thing. You guys are trying too hard to stop me on something that's this small. Pick your battles, guys. The hot sauce probably isn't one you want to... Well, it is one you went after. Unfortunately, it was not a wise choice for you to go after that one. All right. We're done. 11:19 a.m. Central Time. I'll be back if anything else goes down.